Hi, I'm Michelle Turner, and I would like to talk to you just about my thoughts of breathing and being in a wheelchair. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful at all, so I'm not even going to get into a wheelchair to discuss it, because, again, that's a part of people's lives that a lot of us don't have to experience. But for those that do, there's a lot to be considered. A lot of people look at fit for a wheelchair, how the bum goes in, how the child's supported or the adult, how it affects any kind of sores or, wear and tear on the system. But a lot of people don't look at the breathing. As a person gets more to max assist, there are things to consider in a wheelchair. A lot of people see this going on, and they have the support that goes through here to pull the body up. A lot of that is because of the sun. They don't know how to shade or do or say, I need sunglasses. So you see a lot of kids in particular that do this, and look at the way your child's looking at light, and if that's a factor. And I know a lot of people say, well, they won't wear glasses. I understand that. Maybe a big brimmed hat, maybe there are other things to play around with to see if the person or child will go more upright in their chair. Again, because anything like this, and you can play with it, especially if there is a harness involved. So if you've got, I have weight here, and if you are pulling it back as well, the breathing that can go on, what that does is it really restricts the chest cavity. Now the only area that I have for breathing is barely through my stomach, and in this position, I might look like I have a stomach, but for it to function for breathing as well is very difficult. So a lot of people do too, is they'll tend to tilt the wheelchair back, so it'll come back, so it actually brings the head up more, and that'll allow breathing. But also look to see how the spine is supported. I mean, there's a lot of conversations that go on here, because something like this too can tend, because they're lying down more, have more of an issue with long term with, let's say, scoliosis. So that's something to take into consideration. But again, if the person is leaning, and it could be just habitual, that's where my joystick is, and this is how I operate, and there's more of a lean going on here. Again, the breathing is only happening even barely efficiently through this side, versus the sitting up straight. So that would be the same thing as, when I do these little lessons, movement lessons and or Feldenkrais type things, it's about just showing you a variety. So if the person in the wheelchair is much more cognitive, where they can play with their breath, again, sit here and take the lessons that I've done in standing and laying down, and just sit in the chair. You can do it at your computer even. And just, what is it like to expand the chest and then expand the belly? And then if you're in this position, what is it like to expand the chest and expand the belly? And play with it to see if you can get, if there's ways of getting more awareness in the area, so you can have more efficiency in the area. So don't discount the importance of breathing when fitting your child or an adult with a wheelchair. I know, again, it's more looked at muscular and skeletal system, strapping in the feet, all of those kind of things. But breathing is really important, because that adds to fatigue, how a person thinks, organ function. Even in this position, as you know, the more you go forward, the more the organs want to hang and not work efficiently, and that includes your lungs. So as coming back, and again, I'm not doing the sergeant thing, I'm just comfortably on my skeletal system. Obviously, this is a problem we have when we sit in chairs. We're not so much on the skeletal system. You'll see this more with the babies in the high chair, that they'll come up like this. But this is just fatigue and habitual and laziness or whatever, or just and again, I say laziness, I don't mean it in any kind of derogatory, but we're not looking at, am I on my sit bone today, and how am I sitting, and all of that kind of thing. Could be the way your child plays with the DS, as far as that's concerned, that roundedness, and that's going to incorporate into the person's life. So when you're looking at movement, there's that old saying, don't make that face, because it's going to stay that way. It does happen a lot with our bodies. You know, if we're always on the cell phone, you're going to see the shoulders start to rise. If we're always doing certain things that are fatiguing to the system, then the system's going to kind of want to stay that way unless you play with it. So even in this position, can you play ball over here? Can you play ball over here? Can you play, you know, even in sitting, there's ways of bringing in variation and movement into the person's life to incorporate it, that it's much more comfortable, much more better breathing, better on the skeletal system, and better for their mental processing than just allowing this to happen. And if you're like this, you kind of check out, and that awareness is gone. I'm just going for a ride, and it's not easy as a parent or as a caretaker to be on full time as far as getting that stuff going. But again, 3 minutes of brilliance versus 5 minutes of wasted time makes such a difference to the human brain. And those are things to take into consideration when you're putting someone into a chair and you're placing at their max assist and all of that. Work with them, you know, can we get over there, can we get over here, versus just the getting them in and just facilitating the seatbelt and saying, come on, we're gone. So those are just things to take into consideration when you're fitting, and maybe that the person's outgrown it or things like that, or not as efficient, that you can look at. So thanks.